Let's talk about the Meteor Man, right? Which has turned 30 years old, because it came out on August the 6th of 1993. So, backstory, right? Just pre-ramble, right? And then we'll get into how you got into this film in the first place, right? 1993, Jurassic Park came out. It was the summer, right? Big movies was coming out. So, like Jurassic Park, for example. Some of the films that came out in 93, I just can't remember them right now, right? So, I did not see the Meteor Man in theaters. I remember seeing the trailer of it on TV and not really knowing what to make of it, even at that age. I just sort of saw it. I can't remember if the Parenthood, right, which was the sitcom that Robert Townsend started, right. I'm not sure. I think it came out after. It came out after the Meteor Man, like on TV, right. So I wasn't familiar with Robert Townsend, right. It's just only years later that I learned, well, actually thanks to the Parenthood, who he was, and then I saw Hollywood Shuffle, which by the way has been released, part of the Criterion Collection, much deserved in my opinion. That is just a great example of not just 80s African American cinema, but indie filmmaking as well too. Like when you look at it, it's like that's dope. And just the message of it as well in terms of black representation in the in film in the 70s and 80s is a very, very strong and very timeless theme in my opinion, right? But I just remember just seeing that and just really not knowing what to make of it, right? And I'll bring this up in my review, right? So when it comes to the superhero film, right? So the ones that when you grow up, of course, are the DC stuff, right? So it's Batman and it's Batman Returns, and before that there was Superman and the other films, right? Even that god awful Superman 4, right? So when you see something, when as a kid you see this superhero film, and you're wondering if it's based off a comic, but it's not. You just say like, well, why are you watching this for? I don't know who the Meteor Man is. Is there a comic book for the Meteor Man? Okay, I don't know. So why should I care? You know what I mean? So it was just one of those things, even at a young age, I just didn't care for, right? But then, like years later, I can't even remember when I think it's probably in the 2000s when I got cable. That's when I saw it for the first time. I only saw it once, I should say, for this review here would be the second time. I just sort of saw it and just forgot about it. And then later on when you learn about just how hard it was for something like Blade, right, to even exist. You kind of look back at the Meteor Man and be like, this was kind of like a template for an African American star being a superhero, right? Like being a leading man in a superhero film, right? And that actually is a big deal, right? Now, oddly enough, I do remember, I do find it funny that a year afterwards, we got Blank Man, right? Which starred Damon Wayans, right? I think it was. It was Damon, right? And, it wasn't a parody of the Meteor Man, right? Like, just the way how...
No, it was a parody of Batman.
It was, right, it was a parody of the Batman, right? But then also, like, the eyepiece that he had there was very Ninja Turtles-esque. The fact that he was bald head, like I was looking at it, it's kind of like Ninja Turtles too, the way how he look. But I know Damon Wayans through In Living Color. So like, all right. So and I got the gist of it right there. Is a comedic actor playing a superhero, right? So in my head, it made a lot of sense, right? I'll talk about that with this movie here. So when you saw, like, I didn't see Black Man in theaters either. I waited till it came out on TV6. I saw it once. I was like, all right, that's it. Okay. I kind of forgot about it afterwards, right? But I knew who Damon Wayans was. I knew he was a comedian. So in the context of that made a lot of sense. Oh, it's a goofy guy, playing a superhero. That works, at the time, right? And then it's only like years later on that we will get Blade and, and then like years later on you'll get Black Panther, right? And, and then, well, especially when Black Panther came out, right? That's when the discussion came out, it took us this long to give us a black superhero. And then people come, and then people like us will come and say, no, motherfucker, there was stuff like the Meteor Man, there was Blade and stuff like that long before that, right? But it was easy to buy into the discourse that, Black Panther is like the first time we're seeing a superhero, a black superhero.
Right.
So, like that, right? So it brought that discussion. And that's where people really look back at the Meteor Man, right? So, in closing, if there's one thing I do appreciate about those Black Panther discussions is, people, like, were reminded of the Meteor Man. So, they, like, recapped it or checked it out or refreshed their memories. Like, oh, there was this movie that really did something, right? I mean, for better or for worse, it was
Right.
one of, if not the first, African American representations of, the superhero archetype, right? So that is really the best compliment that I could give this movie. But when I get to review, I'll talk more about it, right? But yeah, Ricardo, how did you get into the Meteor Man? And well, I guess you could mention about just how it was brought up in this whole discourse in terms of black representation in superhero films.
Right. Yeah. And, so I saw, as I said, the year before I saw Black Man, in theaters. Black Man came out before this, right?
No, no. Blank Man was 94. Blank Man was a year after this movie came out. Yeah.
Right. Right. No. Right. So I saw it. All right. So I'll tell you where I saw this. I saw this in a little place called Kedona. Uh,
Hey, big
Right.
place.
So I saw that there. I saw Blank Man in, well, the original Gulf City, back when Gulf City had a cinema 30 years ago. So yeah, we come back full circle, right? But yeah, I saw this in Kelowna, and I just went to see it because it just seems like, oh shit, they do like a black Superman kind of thing. Let's see what they're gonna do with it. And it's like, oh, it had Bill Cosby in this. Yeah, back when Bill Cosby was a nice person, right?
Yes, yes,
Uh,
yes. And we
and
all watch the Cosby Show religiously, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, I didn't watch it religiously, but my family they love that bullshit. Right. So, yeah, I remember watching this and just thinking, all right, it's a cool superhero story. Let me see what they're gonna do with it. And yeah, it was. I had a lot of fun with this just seeing it with my family. Um, that's it. I just remember it. I had no working memory of Robert Townsend, and the Parent Trap after, and his Hollywood Shuffle stuff after, just learning about him. But at the time, it
Well,
was just, oh,
it's
it's
Parenthood.
sorry,
Not
Parenthood.
to
I
be
say
confused
Parenthood.
with the Lindsay Lohan
With
from Parent Trap,
Yeah,
right? Or
yeah,
whatever.
I forget it. Yeah, I forget the name of the right the TV show. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is about it. I didn't know into his career after the fact or whatever it is, but yeah, I dig in. I remember I remember having fun with this movie. Like for what it was, it had a lot of jokes that was clearly kind of adult, like the cocaine joke and thing. Uh, but it had a lot of people who I did like watching back. It's like, oh right, you was in this and you was in this. And this person is this, and it's a lot of black all stars. Like just put it like that, right? A lot of all stars. But so yeah, that's how I feel about this movie.
Right, right. Well, before jumping into my thoughts on the film, right? You want to talk about how this film was kind of brought back up in terms of again black representation with superhero films.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I mean, it's one of those things because it's so silly, not really, because it feels like a parody of Superman thing. That's what it was. But they do their own thing with it, given the story. I don't really see it so much in the context of like a black superhero film so much. But yeah, I suppose you could count it. And in the case of his career, the movie I also compare this to is also he had Up Up and Away. Um,
I
that's
think
why
I
I can.
saw that. That
That
was
was
when
on
I was
that was
now
on Disney.
introduced to the Disney Channel. I saw it. I think yeah.
Right, right. It was on the Disney Channel, and it's about a superhero family, and one of the family members similar to thing. Like everybody's referenced the superhero movie with the high school superheroes, but that movie did that first. But yeah, that's the movie I more compare it to, with his career, not so much as superhero movies in general. And again, it's how serious you want to take it and how much money you spend, and what was cheap and what can I make fun of, blah blah blah. But that's about it. That's how I just think about it. I don't think about it in the context of Black Panther or anything like that. When I think of black superheroes, Blade, that
Yeah,
then Black Panther.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. Yeah, I don't really think otherwise. Yeah, but that's about it.
Yeah,
So yeah.
well, just a pivot over what you just said there. I think that is like the best way to approach a movie like this, right? In retrospect, right? Where it's, but then again, no, that brings up just a major issue that I have with the film, right? But I'll get to that in a bit, right? So what it's about, it's that it centers on this teacher in Washington D.C. His name is Jefferson Reed, right? And in this
Yep.
particular neighborhood in DC, there's this gang running about called the Golden Lords, right?
Golden Lords. Yes.
And
Right.
wow, this is so 93, right? So remember a little film called
The
Demolition
height of.
Man? I remember Wesley
Yep.
Snipes was rocking the white hair.
Yep.
So I don't know if
Yeah.
like Robert Townsend, who directed and wrote the film, saw like a teaser or something so for Demolition Man and say, all right, I want the bad guys to be
Right.
rocking gold hair too, Jen. Can I just watch this like, bro,
Well,
like
I
that's
think it was
Wesley
just a
Snipes shit
general.
though. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. No, I think it was just a general thing because I forget was oh yeah what do you call him, Don Cheadle was in this, right?
Yes, and I was shocked.
Right.
I was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you with this?"
Yeah.
Because, like I say,
Yeah.
it's just Black All Stars, boy. So I was shocked
Yeah.
that he was there. Dog, Big Daddy Kane was one of the Golden Lords,
Right?
man. Like,
Yeah.
wow. And I'll talk about rappers in this show, right? Because yes, there's a few rappers that show in this movie that like shocked me, right? And there's one musical artist, right? When I saw that name pop up, I was like, oh, they're not serious, right? And when that person appeared for the first time, I was like, what? No, the context would make no sense, but when that person showed up, I was like, what are you doing in this movie, right? But anyway, so yes, there's this gang that's running around doing things, and apparently, like, the Crips and the Bloods are there as well too, but they kind of the
Right.
background, but it's
Right.
really about the Golden Lords, right?
Yeah, that's how badass. That's how badass the Golden Lords
Yeah,
is, right?
boy, that even the Bloods and
They
Crips had to
so
step
tough.
back and like deal drugs,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, because basically Golden Lords just doing nefarious shit. They just run around and just beat people up and cause chaos and whatnot. That's what they do. And they even go as far as recruiting little kids to do their jobs, right? So they have baby lords,
Right.
they have junior lords as teens, and then you have the adult Golden Lords, which Don Cheadle is one of them, right? So the leader of the Golden Lords is Simon Kane, who is played by Roy Fagan. I actually like never saw him in anything, right? This is actually the first time I've seen him in a movie, right?
Nah.
So what happens like one night now, this green meteor falls, well, sorry, like not even crash lands into Earth, right? Like it reaches into the Earth's atmosphere. Somehow
Yeah.
weird thing, right? It
Yeah.
somehow spots
It turned.
Jefferson and follows him, right?
Yeah.
Like it just
Yeah. And turns
like
straight.
it,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it's it's falling down,
And goes
but
horizontal.
somehow it like
Yeah.
curves and follows Jefferson into like this brick wall, and then it sort of
Right.
like
Hits him.
hits him and it's
This
swallowed
sequence
up.
kind of scary as hell. Eh? This
Dog,
was kind
that
of
was
weird
some
and
body
gruesome.
horror shit, dread. Because you seeing
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the meteor literally going inside the guy's skin, dread.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
is, let me check over. This is PG, right? Like kids sat
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
watched
Yeah.
this, right?
I'm surprised they pulled this off. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I understand the nature of films in the 80s and 90s. Yes, you would have like a couple of gross out moments or stuff where it's like would scare kids. So that's where you get the PG rated. But like even at in that standard though, that is some straight up David Cronenberg type shit. Dread. Like what? Anyhow,
Yeah.
so of course that knocks him out. He ends up in the hospital. Well, actually he gets 2-degree burns, and then like a couple of weeks later, all the burns are gone, right? And then he learns that he has powers, right? But the powers are just so weird. So it starts off strong though, where he is able to touch a book, and you see like
Right.
these
And you can
these
read, you
green
read everything in the
waves
book.
basically on the books. And for
Right.
30 seconds, I'll tell you how he
Yeah. You
learned
can read. You can learn
how he
everything in the
finds
book.
it out. For 30 seconds, he pretty much knows everything in that book. And he could tell you word for word everything that's on that book. He could follow everything to a T, only for 30 seconds. And it's only his friend Michael, who's played by Eddie Griffin, again, all-star. Yeah, he realized, 30 seconds, right? He also could see through walls, could see through people's clothing.
Right.
He has super speed. He has super strength. To the point that there's a
Right.
moment where he falls flat on a street and causes a literal earthquake to happen. And he can fly, of course, because that's why he has a cape. That's why his costume has a cape in it. And he can also communicate with dogs. That moment where he talks to
Right.
his dog is cringy AF. Because they could have just stopped at,
Yeah.
it's funny that he's doing the ruff, 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 and you see the subtitles. But why, oh why, are we hearing this guy off screen do this voiceover for the dog? So it's like, Jeff, wake up, Jeff. And you hear ruff, ruff, ruff. It's like, Jeff, wake up, Jeff. I like, we don't need the voice. We already see the subtitle. We hear the barking. That's the joke. We don't need somebody to spell out the subtitles. I understand, kids watching the show, but Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
man, we get the joke. Anyway, so
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
this is just the amount of weird powers this dude has, right? So through some circumstances, actually through his parents, right, played by Robert Guillaume. I haven't seen him in a
You're right.
long while.
Yeah, the last time I knew him was what boy? Eli Vance from Half Life 2. That's the last time I knew him.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay. And I forgot he actually passed away too. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
R.I.P. And Mala Gibbs, right? I was like,
Right.
hey, All Star as well too. Yeah, so they create a suit for him. Well, actually, well, Jefferson escapes death, you know what I mean? Because yeah, there's a moment where the Golden Lords are about to kill him, right? But thankfully that doesn't happen, right? So yeah, he kind of gets inspired now to be a crime fighter, right? And you know, well, his parents actually create a suit for him. Very, very, very Clark Kent-esque in terms of the parents' involvement in him becoming a hero. And actually, mom calls him Meteor Man, which I thought was really interesting that the mom calls him that.
Right.
And yeah, he just goes on this one man crusade to clean up his town. Well, clean up his home, right? And then of course, well, you know, Simon doesn't want anything to do with that. So yeah, he wanna stop the Meteor Man at all costs, right? So if you don't mind, right, I will just give I'll just give like I'll just start off with the main issue with the film, right? I'm not really sure how, in retrospect, that is, right? I'm not really sure how serious I'm supposed to take this film.
That's the problem with
Because
this.
I
Yeah.
could have just viewed it as, oh, it's a goofy, silly superhero comedy, right?
Right.
But because it's the 90s, and I mean, I don't want to knock down people who were making films like this back in the 90s, but yeah, it wants to be a socially conscious film. It wants to be a message movie. So we
Right.
have to constantly remind you about how bad crime is in the community and how it affects kids and how it affects inner city life. So there will just be these moments where the humor will just stop dead in its tracks, and we have to remind you, yes, the Golden Lords are so bad and so evil, right? So one-dimensional, by the way, right? Um, and then, like say a show like say New Jack City or Deep Cover, where the bad guys are, you know, have nuance and like in terms of the characters, like why they do what they do, right? Why they being so
Right.
aggressive, right? No, it's just they're bad because they are bad. And there's this guy, I think is a Jew, or I think that this Jewish guy who running the show. So you know, it's all about this chapter. So this is like the DC chapter, whatever it is, of this crime gang, right? So yes, it allows. In other words, they're just bad for the sake of being bad. So you just have to see them as villains, right? But because the show constantly has to stop and remind you about how bad this thing is, and you know about crime and drugs, it's like I have to take it seriously because it touches on a really serious issue, right?
Right.
Now, I'll say about this show here, like this show really wears its heart on its sleeve, right? You can really tell that Robert just wanted to make a superhero film, you know, a black superhero, you know what I mean? And just given his nature with films, right? Especially with Hollywood Shuffle, I can understand why he would want to, you know, want to have a positive figure, you know, in the world of superheroes, you know, be a black man, right? I can understand that, right? Conceptually, right? But I think the first thing that he shouldn't have done, unfortunately, is cast himself. I think that, I mean, yes, he is quite charming and like it's admirable, right? What he's doing here, right? But I think if they had just cast somebody who, and here's the thing, right? Because it wants to play comedy and he's a comedian, it's like, yeah, it's a great fit. Let me be Meteor Man, right? That makes sense. Okay, right. But you also want to have the seriousness of it too. So you want to have somebody who could do the dramatic stuff very well. And let's say that Robert can do drama, but I think like if they had cast somebody like in other words, they really should have decided what the film was. Is it like a straight comedy, like say Black Man was, where I could see a comedic actor be a superhero and buy into it? But no, it wants to play a bit of both. So it wants to do the serious stuff, but it also wants to do the comedic stuff. And here you have this comedic actor who does comedy stuff. I don't know him for drama. So yeah, like when he's doing the dramatic moments, I'm sorry, they just kind of fall flat. Even though he's playing the mild-mannered, you know, school teacher, it still kind of falls flat, right? There's just one particular moment, that's where they have this community meeting and whatnot, and then well, that's in the that's in the third act where he goes out to fight them. I'll talk about that near the end. Yeah, that's when you buy into him as this dramatic character. But clearly he is there because he does comedy, right? But again, because he wants to do the drama stuff, it's hard. Like I just like I don't know what to make of it. Like ultimately, I'm not
Yeah, yeah,
sure what
yeah,
to make
yeah,
of it.
yeah. It
But yeah,
don't.
Ricardo, your thoughts?
No, I just think it is a kind of black parody of Superman. Like that is what it's supposed to be. Like that is just how I read it. So I didn't take it too seriously in that sense. But yeah, it is a tonally discordant movie because how it boil down to these serious ideas, but at the same time you're doing a sort of goofy stuff. and it's how to balance that. And a lot of it doesn't work in terms of its central conceit, I find. It's a movie I like, eh? It's a movie I had fun with. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff that just kind of just like don't hold up particularly well, like when they do the fashion book part or
Oh Lord, when I
stuff
see
like
that, I
that.
was like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. It's cringe. It don't hold up. Like I remember laughing at it at the time, kind of, but I was what 8 at the time, so
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Uh, yeah. So yeah, no, it is that problem, and they try to get all these again. They get all these black all stars to say, all right, well, we're gonna do. So, but that's the thing, eh? It the original think of it as like a Lester Superman film. That's how I kind of think about it. You're not supposed to take it too seriously, yeah, doing something involving crime or whatever it is, but a lot of it don't work a whole lot, in my humble opinion. Given that it translates into the black experience, and it just there is one bit that is still funny as hell to me, that when he blow all the coke on them, that is funny.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
still funny
I'll
to me.
get to that in a bit too.
That's
Yeah,
still funny to me,
yeah.
especially when you find them later. That was funny.
Mm.
That is about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I think in terms
go
of
ahead.
tone, I think in terms of tone, it should have leaned more towards the comedy, right? And
Right,
just let the bad guys be bad, but
right.
not just stop to drive home a message, which is a great message nonetheless. I mean, I'm not no cynical,
That's
not
fine. Yeah,
no cynic and
exactly.
say, oh, you shouldn't talk about that. I mean, it's the early '90s, I understand, but the show literally stops to be a message movie and just doesn't work when they do that, right? Um, like when it comes to the special effects, they don't hold up at all though.
No,
And they
yeah,
do add to the same problem of how seriously I should take it, right?
yeah,
So like I'm seeing the Meteor Man fly, but he like closely to the ground and it's like it looks bad. There's a moment where he stops this guy from stealing a TV and just out of the blue he just does this weird cartwheel. I think like he gonna do the cartwheel and then fly away though. He just does his cartwheel and just leave the scene. I'm like, what? Um
yeah.
there's
It's
a
weird.
moment where he's catching bullets and he's just moving back and forth, back and forth. It just looks cringe as hell. You know what I mean? So again, it's like if I was a child, yeah, when I watch it, I'd think it was like dope though. You know what I mean? Like funny, like I laughed at it, right? But even then, I wouldn't even take that. I wouldn't take that seriously, right? The cast for this is insane, right? Because we see it's not just Robert Townsend. You seen James Earl Jones, who
Right. Yeah.
this is bit involving him just trying out like different like '90s hairstyles. So he tried to do the feed like what he tried to do the height up like what uh Kid from Kid and Play have. He tried to do that.
Yeah.
This is this blink and missing moment where he does his little freestyle outside of his brownstone. That was funny because of how unexpected it
Right.
was, right? Um,
And he had Bill Cosby, who had a little piece of the meteor and was doing your goofy stuff with it.
yeah,
And it's just Bill
his
Cosby. It just Bill Cosby be doing silly Bill Cosby
Yeah,
nonsense.
his character, dog. Sorry to say this, is
Arbitrary.
weird, boy. Like even
Yeah.
in the
Don't make no
shows,
sense.
the show is weird already, right? This character is
Yeah.
so weird, boy, because he's mute, right? He's a vagrant and he has these dogs, and somehow I don't even know how it happened, but somehow he acquired part or maybe it's the whole
Right. A little piece
well
of the
piece of the
meteor.
meter,
Right.
right? But somehow he figured out the powers in it too, because he do a little levitation stuff as
Right.
well. And he comes in and he's literally the Deus Ex Machina that shows up in the third act, right? I'll talk about the third act in a bit.
All right.
But that's
Right.
his purpose.
Yeah.
He's the Deus Ex Machina. He shows up like, oh, you want power? Let me come. Literally with like I don't want to say a spinach can, right? But literally he comes in with this tin can basically with the meat in it. So it's almost like Popeye.
Right.
Like he comes with the spinach. It's like that's what he does, right?
Yeah.
But still, like even in the show, even in the context of the show, it's weird though, you know. I won't lie, when I
Yeah.
saw another bad creation, I was like, wow, this shit real old, boy. So for those who don't know, another bad creation was this hip hop slash New Jack Swing group from the '90s
Yep.
that was made up of kids, right? So I think they
Right.
came right after Crisscross blew up in
Crisscross.
'92.
Right. Yeah.
So they came in because they were like the young kids, the
Young Golden
preteen
Lords.
to
Yeah.
yeah, right. They will play the young lords, right? So yeah, it like in the
So
career
yeah,
with the music.
I loved Crisscross. I never get into ABC.
You
Right.
know, I
Never
follow
get
about
into them.
ABC after the fact. Like,
I
oh,
never
okay,
get
who's
into them.
them? But Chris
Yeah.
Cross was his shit though, like back
Yeah.
in
Crisscross
'92,
was
right?
hard.
I remember when he came down in Trinidad. I didn't go to the
Yeah.
event, the concert. I was too young. God damn it, whatever, right? But yeah, Chris Cross was big. So when ABC came, I was like, wait, who's them? You know what I mean? Whatever. But yeah, they were there. But dog, I wouldn't even know who these kids
What they
were,
were.
Trent,
Yeah.
because
I
it's a
never get into
lot
them.
of, and they all boys too, and that what catch me, right? There's a bunch of men in this group, right? And
Yeah.
somehow Simon have a Bengal tiger because fuck you, that's why. But yeah, it's a bunch of like men in this show, in the gang now, so I don't even know who Another Bad Creation was, right? I couldn't tell you, right?
Yeah.
Um,
No, I was vaguely familiar with them. I just never get into them.
right. Well, me too.
Yeah.
Sinbad show up.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Right.
just
Of course, Sinbad show up because he's 90s. Very
yeah,
90s.
and they try to do this bit where he black, but like he trying to be quote unquote woke. Like, well, sorry, not woke. Like he trying to
Yeah,
embrace
right.
his blackness. Like, oh, you know what I mean? This is what being black is about, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It don't work at all, right? But it was cool seeing Sinbad. It was cool seeing them there, right? Tommy, Tiny Lister was there. I was like, hey, you in this too? You
Right,
know, aka
right.
Debo, right? R.I.P. to Debo. But Don Cheadle catch me by surprise. But I was like, wow, you in this? I wouldn't even be surprised if this was like his debut, like feature, film appearance, in my opinion, right? And it's when you realize what his name is, because what he partners call about is like, yo, Goldilocks.
Yeah.
Like Goldilocks, bro. All right,
Yeah,
bro.
dumb joke.
Okay, yeah, let's start somewhere, right?
That's a dumb joke. Yeah,
It's a dumb joke.
It's a
I get it because a gang, blah blah blah, whatever, right? I did like the cameo from John with a spoon though, because if you remember, he was in
Right,
Hollywood
right.
Shuffle. I think that was like
He's an all-star.
one of his first appearances.
Not an
Yeah,
all-star.
he an all-star, right? R.I.P. Right?
Right.
Chris Tucker. Kind of was hating the voice, right? Because there's a
Right.
moment where Eddie Griffin, in a very, 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 very stupid move, decide, here's what. There's this female news reporter that I have the hots for, and I want to get with she. She real talking about Meteor Man, and she want to meet with Meteor Man. She say the edit she report, oh, you know, if you ever in the area, pass by, I'll make dinner for you. She's like, fuck it, I just gotta steal the suit. Man had the goal to steal Jefferson's suit. Go in the mall, right? In the mall and tell everyone, yo, I'm Meteor Man and I saved the world, right? And if you hear, right, there's an MC, right? This guy who's introducing Meteor Man, right? It's Chris Tucker. Can I hear him? Give it up for Meteor Man! And it's the Chris Tucker voice, eh?
Right.
Saying, Meteor Man! And it's like, oh shit, that's Chris Tucker though. Like, where is he? You know what I mean? But that was cool that he was in the background, right? So, again, all stars, right? Now that we talk about the musicians in this show, right? So, I mentioned Big Daddy Kane, right? So he was one of the Golden Lords, right?
Golden Roads, yeah.
I saw Biz Marquis. It's like, wait, Biz, you in this too? And he is in that moment.
Yeah.
What you say is, this is a funny bit, right? Your favorite scene in the movie. Yeah, they do the whole. It's sort of like a PG take on the drug dealing thing. You know, where they pack away the drugs, but in this case, they're not topless, so it's just
Right.
a bunch of men and women in this room. Putting away coke, right? What catch me is the song that they play. Cause they play Too Legit to Quit from MC Hammer. I'm like, what does that have to do with drugs, though?
Well, that's the thing, the Golden Lords. Yeah, the Golden Lords kind of like loosely based off of, because I think they had the parachute pants, or at least some of them
I think no.
did they?
No, they didn't
No,
have. They didn't have
Oh.
it. But I think like they had sort of like a baggy pants. Like they all dressed in black, but I think like the
Right.
older ones, like their pants were kind of baggy. I think like
Right.
even Simon's was that as well.
Right.
But yeah, they catch me when they play Too Legit to Quit.
Right.
It's like, what does this have to do with drugs? Like, I don't understand. You know what I mean? But yeah, but then they had the great moment, admittedly, where yes, I almost say Black Man. Yeah, where Meteor Man shows up and literally blows, like does the Superman blow the breath, right? And yeah, all of them fly back and all the drugs just kind of follow them there. And then when they follow back up, you see Bismarcky and some other people just cracking up laughing. That was funny. That was actually like genuinely funny, right? I imagine as a kid, yeah, you'd think that was like the funniest shit, right? Especially if you grew up hearing about the
It
ills of drugs, right? So seeing that moment would be fine, right? When I saw Naughty My Nietzsche name show up, I'm like, we all did this too? So they are part of the Bloods because they sort of pop up ever so often. Because, alright, so they do the RoboCop bit where after he acquires the powers, he spends a whole night just stopping crime, right? There's this montage style, right? So yeah, the man go into this, like, stop in the middle of this big shootout between the Bloods and the Crips and the cops, right? And again, because they have to hammer home this message, oh, let's unify, let's, put down the guns, man. They do that. I was like, I get it there, but oh gosh, it's so cheesy, even by 90s standards, right?
That's
But
the thing.
yeah,
Like Robert Townsend is one of these guys who does the whole corny PSA, black PSA stuff. And I
yes.
really like him as a filmmaker and what he represents. But he's just somebody who is the end of Cosby kind of into the 90s kind of person. And
Mm,
the 90s became a lot more cynical and a lot more realistic in terms of, how to deal with black issues. This
yes.
is, again, the transference period between Cosby and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like, if you understand that reference point.
I
I
do.
think about
Yeah,
it.
great
And
reference actually.
he's that. Right, he's that. He's still in that culture of discipline and we're gonna have to have discipline. That's how you're
Yeah,
gonna get out of the
stay in
struggle. If you
school. He's that type.
right,
He's
if
that
you
type.
remember, was he remember that movie Lean on Me
Oh yeah,
with
with Morgan Freeman. Yeah, it's that.
right,
It's
that
that.
bullshit. That bullshit. Yeah, it's that. It's like that's something that's only catered to a really like outdated disciplinarian mindset about the system. I don't know.
Exactly. But no
That
nuance
right
it though. It's just clear cut.
at
Okay,
all.
the
Right.
bad guys are bad, and all we just need to do is just stop the guns and stop the drugs. It's easy, right? But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I was surprised to see Church Duel. It's just
Right.
this guy like what? You know what I mean? But what blew my mind Jay, was two artists, so to speak, right? When I saw Cypress Hill in the cast, I was like, what?
Right.
Cypress
Right.
Hill?
Yeah.
And dog, seeing
Yeah.
Be Real in this movie, I was cracking up at that shit, because it's Be Real though. It's Be Real, it's insane in the
Yeah.
membrane. And the man talking normal.
Yeah.
So when I hear that lady in the film, I was like, wow, I didn't know that was your voice, Joe. I thought that you just talk like, like I thought that was like your natural voice.
Right.
Like I know it's not his natural voice, of course, right? But what you know about Be Real, right? And of course, Send Dog is there in the background too. Is like, dog, like what are you doing in this movie,
Yeah.
bro? I don't understand, right?
Yeah,
But
no, it weird. I said this movie real weird.
mine was blown dread. Like when I saw the name, I was like, nah. You can't be this show, dread. How's Luther Vandross though? What
Right.
what blew my mind is that he's a gangster in this movie. He's not part of the Golden Lords, sir.
Yeah.
He's one of like the Jewish guys. Like he's like one of the main gangster guys, basically, right?
Right.
Yeah.
In the ending, yeah.
He appeared a couple of times, right? Thankfully, or to say fortunately for his sake, he does not see a single line. He doesn't see anything in this movie, right? But the man just
Right.
show up in the end of the movie with that, like this silencer, just like, dog, the guy who was singing about the power of love, and here now, all in the 90s, I hear this on radio every single
Right.
day of my existence in the 90s, right? What you doing playing a gangster, a gun-toting gangster, Trent? It's weird.
Yeah. It's just a cameo of it, and it's just again black celebrity
Yeah,
stuff.
but it stops
if
you
you're-
dead
if
in
you're-
your tracks though, because it
Right,
just
to show
stops
you,
you. It's
yeah.
just like, dog, Luther Vandross, though. It's so weird, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the cast of this movie is ridiculous, right? Writing, I think the show really does suffer from piece and misuse though. Again, because you want to do the superhero origin story, but you also want to do the topics that affect the community stuff, and you also want to do why the Golden Lords are bad, all that kind of stuff, right? So I just felt like even though the show is called Meteor Man, I felt like there wasn't enough of Meteor Man in it as well, right? And yeah, the moments with him is just goofy superhero stuff and whatnot. They even had the goal to have like this Superman-esque kind of music play in the background when he's doing this thing. So you have the stuff,
Right.
right? There's a point where I had all had to admit, this is a fairy tale thread. So there's a moment where it starts off well, right? Where he goes by this abandoned plot of land, right? And he moves these old cars and, he pretty much plants seeds, right? And then because, of the movie, he has all the powers of the universe. Yeah, this man channel a rain cloud and rain start falling. And he had to do the moment where he looks up to the sky and he smiles. So it's like, oh, that's where Shawshank Redemption got the idea for this scene.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
A little
And they
bit,
play this
yeah.
whimsical music
And I
in the
don't notice that.
background,
That's
and
not
they
good.
hear these news reports about how Meteor Man
Right.
is such a great
Yeah.
hero, man, all that kind of stuff, right? Next scene now, where the same news reporter where that Eddie Griffin's character was trying to track, right, shows up. You see like this massive field of like like you just see this
Yeah.
giant ass
And there's a bunch of
pumpkins and
and yeah. It's
sunflowers
like
and
that can't be
shit.
healthy. I was like, that can't
And
be healthy for anybody.
and you know, and they were talking about, oh, you know, the Meteor Man did this, you know, he's
Yeah,
providing
stupidness.
food for the community.
Right.
And they're like, this is a fairy
weird.
tale, Dre. This is a
Yeah,
fairy
exactly.
tale. It's a ghetto fairy tale. That's what it is. And
Right.
when I pick up on that, I was like, all right, that's how I should approach the rest of this film. It's a ghetto fairy tale. I'm not meant it's meant to inspire, but I should not take this serious at all because it's fantastical, right? I mean, I'm talking
Right.
even though it's a superhero film, but I really shouldn't take
Again,
that seriously.
it taps in.
Yeah.
It taps into the more. Again, it taps into the more Lester Superman movies. That's what it feels like. It's no
Right,
different
right.
from when Superman shooting, making bricks out of his eyes. Right?
Yeah,
It's
with
that
that
movie.
god awful scene
Yeah.
from Superman 4. God.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same kind of level of silliness that you had to take from it. But you see, I don't know. That is look. You see, with superhero movies, it's difficult to like balance the goofy stuff and how to tell a story and how to get it to take us something like that seriously, but at the same time how to balance it. So I get where I am sympathetic towards that part of it. But yeah, it's a mess. And a lot of it do.
Yeah, so just before I get to my final thoughts and rating, right? So I have to talk about that too. That where this is where you see everything just sort of come together. All that stuff I talk about how seriously I should take this shit. That's where it all comes together, right? So there's a scene, Dread, that I probably rewind about 5 times because that shit had me cracking up, right? So Simon and his goons decide, here's what, right? We going to come exactly by, because now we know who Meteor Man is, right? It's not Michael as in Eddie Griffith's character. It's Jefferson. So we know where he lives now. We coming by his crib. We're going to attack him now. We're going to bring him out and we're going to expose him and we're going to beat him up, right? Simon stands out, Dread. And okay, so context, right? Clearly, this is meant to be a reference to Spike Lee's The Writing, where you have that crane shot, but it's a camera zoom out, right? Where in that film, it was a zoom out from Samuel Jackson's lips, right? And you see where he's in the little apartment where he has the studio where he's doing the show, right? And it's that wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, right?
Right.
That's what again at here, right? Robert now, as in Townsend, try to do this, right? But with Simon, right? So he's doing this.
Meteor Man!
Meteor Man!
Right. Yeah.
And keeps doing that.
Yeah.
I must have run that shit about 5-6 times, dog.
Yeah.
I was laughing my ass off with that shit. And it's how the music dramatic and how it just zooms out from his mouth and he's doing, man!
Yeah.
I know what they're trying to do. He's trying to be intimidated, but my God, that scene falls so flat.
Yeah.
But funnier, I wish that clip was on YouTube and I had that like loop for hours, boy. Meteor Man! It's insane. It's insane, right? So anyway, so one creative thing they do well, right, is that because of how Jefferson uses his powers, yeah, it doesn't weigh out his body, but he gets tired pretty quickly. So there's a moment where they're trying to wake him up, but he can't wake up. He's like dead asleep, right? So I like that. Like the more he uses his powers, the more it drains him out does. So it takes him long to wake up. I like that, right? So he's running out of juice, so to speak, right? So he has to come out. Right. He actually has no powers, and that's when Bill Cosby had to play Do Ex Machina now and save him.
Yeah,
with the
Ex
rock,
Machina.
Right?
Yeah.
So you get actually a great bit of character development where Jefferson decides, hey, I gotta go and face these guys, right? So he comes out now, and well, he wants to he going up against Simon, right? And then Simon just started to beat him up now, and again,
right.
You want to be a super serious movie, but you want to be a comedy at the same time. So again, I'm seeing Jefferson get his ass washed. And I'm like, all right, I know what you're trying to do here, movie trend, but how serious should I take this, right? But anyway, but I do like where like James Earl Jones' character comes out and takes the vinyl and throw it at them, and everybody kind of come out and throw in stuff at them. It's a Spider-Man moment. It's like, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us, right? You get that, right? But again, This is supposed to be a comedy, right? It's that. It totally just doesn't work, right? So, do Ex Machina show up, man get powers, right? And the moment I was waiting for, since Simon was introducing the damn story, yes, Simon gets powers too because he touched the rock as well. And yeah, you get basically Superman versus Zod. That's what you get. You even write out the characters being flown and crashing through windows. Crashing through walls and shit. You get that, right? And then pretty much it ends with him being defeated and all that, right? And then the main villain, the main bad guy, the one who's running the Golden Lords in the first place, yeah, he shows up, and that's when Luther Vandross show up with the silencer, right?
Yeah.
And then again, I know what they're trying to say, film, but it just wasn't done well. The Bloods and Crips show up.
Right.
All of them show up, right? And they all on top of the roofs of all the buildings and houses, right?
Yep. Yeah.
All toting guns, Robert, I get what you're saying and over, but
no.
And I kind of like
it makes sense. It makes sense in the context because this was right around the LA riots was happening. So,
that's right. For all I know, it probably was filmed during the LA riots, right? So I get it. Bloods, Crips unify. I get that, right? I listen to the game, right? The game does always see that shit, right? But anyway, I get what it's...
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Dre there, but I get it, But think about it too. Given the audience, kids are watching this, right?
Yeah.
All of them on top the buildings, toting guns, right? Toting guns, pretty much chasing off a gang. Two gangs are chasing off another gang off, right? This is the message that they try to tell kids. I get what you try to say, film, but that's not a good message, right? And I think this admittedly, before I wrap up here, even the show itself runs out of steam, because right when the police show up and arrest people now, it just ends on this freeze frame of Jefferson just looking at the camera smiling. The show just kind of just say, I think we done there,
Yeah.
Because again, as you say, it's drawing on Superman, right? So you couldn't give him a moment with him,
fly off and free to the
fly
camera.
off though. I don't want to fly off or do some kind of thing. I'm not expecting him to fly, into space and look at the earth and then fly away like what they do in the Superman movies. But some majestic moment where you see him fly away now, or even taking Batman. That final shot in the first Batman movie where he stands right next to the bat symbol. Give him something like that. Not him looking at, gang members on top of rooftops and looking at the camera smiling. What kind of shit is that? You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you could nitpick this movie from now till they die in the right? But ultimately, I get the intent of the film. It's very admirable. Like I said, it wears his heart on his sleeve, right? It really wants to be this... Robert, you could tell, really wanted to make a positive role model for black kids, right? With a superhero. Here's a superhero you could like, right? You don't need you could have your Batman, you could have your Superman, but, nobody else is making films with black superheroes, so let me be the first, right? And I admire that. I absolutely respect that, right? But I think if he had just figured out the right tone for the film, we would be talking about this film in a much better light, right? If he had done what Damon Wayans done with Black Man and just say, all right, I'm doing full comedy. That's it.
Full comedy, right.
That's it. Instead of trying to balance the message movie. I understand. I get it. It's the early 90s. I get it, right? We would have had a much impactful film, and I think his message or at least what he wanted to achieve with the film, again, having a positive role model, be a superhero, be black, right? Yeah, it would have sounded a lot more, right? Oddly enough, because we bring up Batman, Superman a lot, right? You know what show also kind of reminds me of also I could tell was kind of pulling from Meteor Man. Believe it or not, Steel. Yeah, because Steel was doing the whole message movie thing too, but it had a PG-13 rating. And it wasn't trying to be funny at all. It just ended up being unintentionally funny, right down to that suit, but Jesus Christ, though.
One part of Steel that is so dirty, there is the part where he grab her out of the oh my God.
Yeah, that was bad. That was bad, right? But that too was also trying to do the message movie thing, right? The social conscious thing.
Yeah.
But to that show's credit, it wasn't trying to be a comedy. It's just it ended up becoming an unintentional comedy, right? That's the thing, right? But you could tell that he was trying to do what Robert Townsend do, right? To have the positive black figure in the community be a hero, a superhero, somebody that can look up to. That's what I know they was trying to do, right? They just feel with that, right? So, just in closing, I admire the effort. Even looking at it now, I admire the effort. I get what he's trying to do. It's just tonally, it's just out of balance here. You should have stick to the comedy, and it would have worked, and you could have had a couple of dramatic moments here and there, right?
Right.
Even and I talk about comedy.
Right.
Even the comedy, could have been punched up even more, even by PG standards. This kind of watch it is more like sight gags. Just like, oh, look at how funny this is. Oh, look at how funny that is. But no like genuine bits of humor, right? Well, with the exception of that drug den scene, basically, right? And still, it's just amazing that you had all these, not all these rappers, but you had Big Daddy Kane and Cypress Hill and Naughty by Nature be in this film as well too, right? So I guess in terms of, if you want to talk about hip-hop, yes, you can remember this film in terms of, hey, this was an opportunity where rappers got a chance to be on screen, right? Well, of course, I mean, that's been going on since the late 80s, right, with colors and whatnot. But yeah, like we see it even more, but not just in R-rated films. I think that's what I should say. Not in an R-rated film like, say, a New Jack City or a Boys in the Hood, but a PG film, a film that families could see. So yeah, don't mind at the time, parents probably didn't want the kids to listen to Cypress Hill or Naughty by Nature. Yeah. Well, I mean, Big Daddy Kane could get a pass, right? But definitely not those two. Yeah, I could sit down and watch a film with my kids and show them, hey, that's Cypress Hill. That's, like that. So I guess it works in that way, right? But yeah, overall though, just rating-wise, for what it is, I'll just give this a very light 3 out of 5, man. It's aight for what it is. If you just want to look at it like just from a historical context in terms of just black representation in film and especially with superheroes, yeah, I mean it's something worth like remembering and checking out as well too. It is detailed as all hell, even right down to the messages of it as well too. Again, not saying any messages are bad. It's just the way how they framed. Yeah, it's very PSA like, right? That's what it is. Like, this Robert just could not help himself,
right?
Doing this whole PSA stuff, right? But yeah, it ultimately it should be remembered for what it at least tried to do, right? So I won't shit over this film and say it was horrible and it's terrible and whatnot. No, this is actually a much better film than Steel. Like, I'll quicker watch Meteor Man any day compared to Steel, right? So it's like that.
Right. Yeah, of course, yeah.
But it has its place
so, yeah.
in African-American cinema. So, yeah, I can't be mad at that. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? Not the best show in the world, not the worst show in the world, but could have been much better. I think, again, should have been a comedy, full comedy. But I do admire the attempt, and I'll close with this. Just keep in mind that there literally was no black superhero films at that time, prior to Steel and Blade, right? So I don't know if, like, back then, Hollywood studios were looking for black superhero comics to adapt. But, here Robert came and said, you know what, I'm just going to make my own superhero. And, well, that's what he did, right? For better or for worse. That's all I'll say. So, yeah, Ricardo, you could just give your quick thoughts on the film. There's anything else you want to mention, and then you could give your rating.
Yeah, 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. It's a movie that just it is a product of its time. It do hold up, but it's one of those things that just rely more on just a certain section of black celebrity culture that do exist anymore in any workable sense. And to be honest, shouldn't, right? It's one of those movies that at the time you could get it, and I don't hold the nostalgia for it that I think it thinks it needs. I still would argue that even Up and Away does better than this and that whole conceit of the premise, and it belongs on that stage. But yeah, that's about it. It's a transitional period, I would argue, in terms of like what black culture and how you should quote unquote black culture. We just saying this generic concept in American in American cinema about how black people should be represented, and it is a clear transitional period point about that, and that's about it. Yeah, 5 out of 10. I never really loved this. It have a couple cool moments, but it's something that worth mentioning and talking about, to be honest. I don't know.
Yeah, agreed.